Okay, should we start or give a couple more minutes?
I believe you can send now.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. My name is Liz Morales with DHDC, and welcome everyone to our first housing counseling in service. Before we get started, just want to go over a few housekeeping details. So we have a full agenda and we have a break. Tentatively, we'll see how things go, but it should be around 11 o'clock for 15 minutes. So just be mindful, to return back on time around 11:15, depending the time that we take the break. Um, and also to our participants, please know that if you have any questions, please enter it in the Q&A, not the chat, please. And Rashida will be monitoring that for us. Thank you, Rashida. So with that said, I don't believe, let me see if our supervisor is on, but she did call me. She's on her way. So Cherie, if you're on, welcome and give your welcome to our participants.
Good morning. I am. I just wanted to say welcome. Thank you all for being here. And I also wanted to say that we thank you for just your time as normal. Also, I just wanted to say that there's going to be a lot of things rolling out that you all will hear about. Some you may be hearing about in different times because there's going to be a smaller group and then there'll be the larger housing counseling group that people will be talking to about different programs that the city is rolling out, and will be needing housing counselors assistance with that. Probably will be reaching out to executive directors first, but I was asked just to make you all aware. One program that I was asked, I'm sorry, one quick second. Okay, one program in particular I was specifically told to just announce was the One Philly Mortgage Program. Um, and just that you will hear more about it in the very near future. So I'm going to defer to the rest of the agenda because there's background noise as I'm walking in the office. And so just thank you again, and I'll be on for the duration of the meeting. Have a great day and happy workshop training.
Thank you, Cherie. One small note that our agenda has changed a little bit, just two presenters are switching off. So Terry Redmond and Justin Coleman from PHFA will go first. So take it away, guys.
Hi, everybody. This is Terry Redmond from PHFA, and Justin is on as well. I have a appointment, so I have to leave at 10 o'clock. So my apologies for interrupting the great work and information that Ken is going to provide today regarding the HUD certifications. Um, it's been a while since we've talked, and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. And I just want to give you some brief information on what PHFA is doing or working on, or or some good news. The Philadelphia network, you guys are really blessed. I know the funding situation seems to be a concern, I guess, for everyone in our network, with HUD still not, cooperating, if you will, because of the political challenges that they're facing. But PHFA is still open for business. And again, I know that many of you are also dealing with some constraints at PHFA with the transition with program operations, paying bills now, and the new system that we have in place, which we're still trying to work the kinks out with Workday. But with that said, please understand that we are entertaining all of the invoices that are being submitted. We're trying to close out CACI for 2025 and 25, which won't be completely closed out until March. And we're making approvals because there's a huge demand for the CACI funding because of, I think, the challenges with HUD. So even folks that are connected to another intermediary and not being able to receive funding from that intermediary are now looking to CACI to fund their program until HUD gets their act together. So we are experiencing a higher demand with CACI, and and I sent the email out several months ago saying it, and we will be supporting counseling with CACI, even though most of you have spent your allocations and are looking for additional funding. So we did get approval from our director to continue entertaining those invoices for FY25, and the board approved, drum roll please, that we are going to get an additional $1 million this year. So we are at $3 million, okay, as an allocation. And typically because Philadelphia the county has more agencies than any other county in Pennsylvania. Typically, when I look at my budget, almost half of the allocations go into the Philadelphia County. So I know you're being supported by the mayor, and your contracts have been extended, even with the political challenges. And I came by to tell you that PHFA is supporting the program as well. So
Whoop,
I
whoop,
had So I think it's important to just understand that we value the work that you're doing every day, and with the home appreciation value being what it is today, I just looked it up. The median price of a home in Philadelphia is $340,000. So one of the things that I had asked for was an increase so we could support an estate planning workshop. So for those of you who are already in this space doing estate planning, great. For those of you who are thinking about it, for those of you who want to increase the opportunity for people to work with families or clients that are not delinquent, that need to come back to you for additional services, the estate planning opportunity will be available to you probably in the next couple of months. I know Justin is on this call. He's working on the funding policy right now. It's unclear to me at this point how we're going to incentivize it. Most of our workshops are at $500, depending on the hours. And I'm not sure. I do want to we're probably going to treat this the same way we treat pre-purchase workshops, where we'll provide the information or the agenda items for you to speak on. So if you have an existing workshop, you just need to make sure that your workshop comprehensively matches the agenda topics that we are going to pay for. That's our standard. And then you can add that information that is not or is missing into your workshop, and you can deliver the workshop. We're also going to put together a workshop for you. So for those agencies that aren't in this space, that would like to be in this space, here is an opportunity for you to take a canned workshop and provide it like we've done for anti-predatory lending. So there is some flexibility there. I'm very excited. We know that the value of counseling happens before, during, and after the sale of the property. And I just found out not too long ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that you can actually have a unit of service if you attend closings. So when you're talking about client engagement, I don't know how often you're using that unit of service to actually attend closings, but just imagine how what type of relationship that you could develop with your clients if you would attend that closing with them, take a picture, and let them know that you're going to be following up with them because you have more information to share about home preservation programs. Because most of our clients are buying existing homes if they're not fortunate enough to buy a house that's already rehabbed. And you can provide this estate planning information and additional information that the city has on other grant programs and weatherization programs that they could utilize. So, we're going to speak more about estate planning in our executive meetings that we're going to plan this year. But I just wanted to let you know that that's pretty much what the newest incentivized opportunity that PHFA has, which was part of the reason for the increase, because we really think that if we get behind this, we can really affect some change, build a better relationship with clients that we see, our pre-purchase clients that we see. And many of these clients are new to home ownership. So you're saying, well, how is the estate planning going to be valuable? Well, there are many folks in the family. These people that are buying homes are heirs to properties in their families. So everybody, whether they're 65 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, everybody's thinking about planning the estate, but they know it costs money. And they're thinking about it, but that's all they're doing. They're not doing anything about it. And when what I'd like to be able to do is kind of improve the racial wealth gap, because there's still a huge barrier, a difference between the wealth of white folks and the wealth of between the racial wealth gap between black and brown individuals and white individuals. And part of it is this, that we're just not planning. We're losing them the property to the nursing homes because of health care. And we really just need to think more intelligently about, what our plans are for this valuable home. With the increase in the value of property, folks, we're no longer in the low income space. We're in the middle income space. And so for folks to think, well, I don't have much, I don't need to plan, that would not be true. If you're buying a $250,000 house, you're middle income, and you really need to plan for your estate. The other thing I need to get you guys focused on is I need more HECM counselors, reverse mortgage counselors. HUD just released a grant. They had $6 million. And if PHFA was situated and had more HECM counselors, we would have gotten more of that money. We got like a measly $30,000 when we could have got $1 million if we had more HECM counselors. I've been talking about this. I know Justin is going to put together a focus group, a study group. But now that we're past the crisis of getting the HUD certification, we still need, more counselors HUD certified, but we also need HECM counselors as well. And we only have a handful in this state, and we could have benefited from the last RFP that was just And it wasn't even an RFP. They had $6 million left over that wasn't spent. They gave PA like $30,000 based on the fact that we only had a handful of registered HECM counselors. Had we had more, we would have gotten more. All right, I'm off my soapbox. More is coming. Take care, and thank you for having us.
Terry, before you go,
Yes.
one question in the Q&A. Is there further written guidance on billing units for attending closings anywhere?
I think, I mean, it's not, this would be a question for um the city, not for me.
Uh, just to clarify, the attending closing, uh, that I believe was removed from the contract before even I came to DACD because I never saw that units of service when we had units of services. Now we removed that units of service and now we're doing RX, outcomes and
Hmm.
regular services. So no, we don't have anything set for attending closings.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Hmm. Maybe
Yeah.
you should consider that.
That's something that, yes, for sure, we should consider that. Yeah.
It would be a great introduction to improving the client engagement opportunity, and especially for folks that need translation. Attending the trainings, some of the counselors speak multiple languages. It would be a lot smoother in terms of
Yeah.
preparing them for the closing.
Plus
But
also we have the Philly first, the assistant for,
That's right. That's right.
yeah, so that would
That's right.
be amazing, combine the two.
That's right. So this is something to
Wait,
think about.
yeah, I have a question actually about the estate planning. Uh, I know to do kind of estate planning counseling, you have to be certified.
No, you don't.
Uh, no, that,
No, no, you don't.
okay, so
No, you don't.
so good to know.
No, you don't. You just need the information. The estate planning course that we are providing will just talk about what estate planning is, um, talk about the documents, the wills, trusts, POA, medical directives, beneficiaries, what inheritance is. We're going to be talking about asset protection, which is done in the pre-purchase portion, but they need to hear it again. Life insurance, the difference between life insurance and mortgage insurance, and encouraging folks to get a home warranty, which they don't always do. Talk about probate and how to avoid it. Which is a conversation that most people are thinking about, but they don't want to talk about. We're going to review the health recovery program. PA has a recovery program that folks need to understand and what that act is, and so they can plan accordingly. We're going to be talking about inheritance tax and how to avoid it, and looking at digital estate planning. So also going to encourage you to develop partnerships with PLA and CLA and other attorneys. There's going to be a list of resources that will be available. We're not going to be in a space where we're trying to replicate professionals that are in this space. Not, we're not trying to be a lawyer, but we are encouraging, just like we do for pre-purchase, we have you bring in the mortgage originator to talk about the originations. We are encouraging folks to bring in the realtor. Same is true here. So if the facilitator is uncomfortable about certain areas that they want to talk about, they can partner with an agency that can come in and spend some time. Of course, this course can be done remotely. so it could be convenient for folks. We're going to be flexible just like we have been on the pre-purchase side of things. Okay?
And Terry,
I
there's
was
no date for this workshop yet, correct?
It's not complete. Justin is still working on it. I'm hoping that by March we can get this rolled out.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. I think it's really going to be a hot commodity. Um, again, your clients are potentially heirs of property in their family. So, introducing that to your clients could involve multi-generational attendance with families coming. Grandmom's coming, mom's coming, everybody's coming to kind of hear about what they need to do to keep the properties that are in their family and not losing them to the state. Any other questions?
No other questions in the Q&A.
Are there anybody here on this call interested in volunteering to be a part of our study group for HECM?
So Terry, this is a webinar. They could possibly put it in the chat. I think you should
Okay.
be able to access the chat.
All right. Well, if they want to do that, then Justin's here and he can get that information and follow up. We're going to do something, but just think about it. With all the equity, 60% of 250,000 is, when I started this job, I didn't talk about reverse mortgages because the average median price home was $75,000, I think, when I started. It's almost four times that now. So it's an option for folks to age in place. Um, and we really need to understand more about the components of reverse mortgages, um, and be able to deliver some information to our clients so that they know what their options are, especially as we are rolling out this estate planning program. Workshop, I'm sorry, estate planning workshop. So I would encourage all of you, if you're interested in expanding your knowledge in this area, to take advantage of the courses that you could access through NeighborWorks and other places to understand more about um, what estate planning is and how you can learn more about this topic.
Okay. I believe we got a, a big group of housing councils saying that they are interested to become HECM certified. So that's good.
I'm sorry, Fran. What did you say?
That in the Q&A, we had like a few housing councilors saying that they are
Interested? Okay. All right.
yeah, in becoming HECM certified.
All right. That's good.
So good. Well, so I guess PHFA will follow up with
Mhm.
the counselors, yeah. And for the
Justin's
state planning also, and the HECM, what information you give to the housing council here in Philadelphia, could you include DHCD to 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 learn also about these trainings?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Justin, we can include staff from DCED in on
DHCD.
the
Yeah.
webinar trainings. Yes. Yep.
So
Yep.
that's perfect. Thank you so much for being part of this in service for the first one for 2006. We planned 3 for the year. So the other one is going to be maybe around June and the other one at the end of the year. But if in between we have information to share. We probably call for another one, but also CLS is doing and like in services for all the programs here for related to mortgage diversion every quarter. So that takes time too. Plus the EDP program, also they have their Fridays. And so we have too many like webinar trainings going on. So our in-service went down from 4 to 3. But thank you so much for sharing with us your information. And I guess we keep in touch. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
yes, so if more questions, so we'll let you know through email and
Yep.
but I don't see more questions. And yes, so we're now moving to affordable housing. Ken
Yeah.
Vigos.
Thank you, Fran. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to present for a few minutes. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Ken Biggess. I'm the Executive Director of the Affordable Housing Centers of Pennsylvania. I asked DHCD to for me to present about the COPA Housing Counseling Certification Academy, because a lot of you, when we organized the coalition of housing counseling groups, expressed to me as far as the concern and the challenges right when the HUD housing counseling certification was being enacted, the, the challenge of each of you finding certified, uh, qualified housing counselors. In response, what we have decided as was the creation of the ACOPA Housing Counseling Academy, designed to help those that are looking to try to pass the certification exam, whether they are individuals that are not part of our housing counseling network, just like regular individuals that are just wanted career change, or people maybe like that are like your intake specialists or other roles within your organization, but need additional training that needed necessary and guidance and support for to pass the certification exam. So with that, like as far as just a general overview of our academy training is it's an 8-week program where we go over each section of the HUD certification requirement. And we do that for there's 6 different modules we do once a week, led by, I always say, Professor Darcel McDaniel, one of our ACOPA counselors. We've done this for a couple of years now. And then we have another couple of weeks where we talk about self-care, preservation, because I know all of you know of the emotional challenges associated with our work. So knowing how to make sure we take care of ourselves, in order to make sure we can sustain ourselves for the long term. Followed by we have our own practice exam. We have Quizlet flashcards we provide to individuals so that they can learn about the technical terms, and as well as assessments that we provide to them every week so that they can be able to be fully prepared for the exam. So I'm joined by Miss Ivy Rati from National Housing Resources Center. I don't know, Liz. I think I don't know if she's on. I saw her as a participant. I don't know if she moved to a panelist. But
I'm on here, Ken. Can you hear me?
you're here? Okay, great.
I'm here.
All right, wonderful. So
Just to let you know, she's under Fran Yuri Medina, so it's the second Fran Yuri.
Okay, great. So this past semester, we completed one semester in the fall. We're joining with NHRC to help with the training. So like instead of like looking at just a Philadelphia base, it's been statewide. And what I think also want to thank Justin and Terry for their communication to the entire network. because we've had other the past semester we've had participants from counseling agencies throughout the state involved with the training. I think the benefit of this is like the for some of you that are looking for housing counselors, we have in this previous semester, Miss Ivy, you know better of how many have passed the exam. I've heard at least six out of more, but basically they're the individuals who are eager to enter into the field of housing counseling. So with that, it's an opportunity, say, for example, if you are looking for an individual, but of course are worried the fact that when you're evaluating a candidate, the question maybe you have on your mind when you're doing the interview process is this person going to pass the HUD certification exam? Um, because that's always a requirement. Um, some of the people that we've have passed the exam, if you looked at their resumes, you would never think that they would be a housing counseling candidate. For example, we've hired some people that were housing counselors that their previous work experience was doing HR work or a flight attendant for Delta, but they have like those other skills can help them in terms of um, being a quality housing counselor, but at the same time, just that you didn't know of like whether they can pass the exam. So that is something that we're very excited about, and I want to also thank Professor Darcel McDaniel for all of her work in terms of um, the instructions that we've provided to the individuals. Um, Miss Ivy, I don't know if you wanted to talk more about like some of the candidates and how many we have available.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Miss Ivy Rati. I'm with the National Housing Resource Center. I'm out of the country right now, so that is why my video is not on, so my Wi-Fi is not that great. But I work with the National Housing Resource Center, and we advocate on behalf of the housing counseling agencies across the country. And yeah, we wanted to work together with Ken because we, are feeling the same mission, right? We're wanting to educate a brand new generation of housing counselors. And what is great about this is that ACOPA has trainers just like Darcel McDaniel that are very seasoned and very educated. And as I've been working with the students over the course of, the 8 weeks, I have learned that they're extremely motivated and they come from all different backgrounds, but they have a heart for service. And they were very like engaged with the lessons and just ready to kind of get out there and get into the workforce. And we saw that the students that were the most motivated and completed the assessments and the practice exams were the students that ended up passing the exam the first time. So our goal as, the training entity is to make sure that we are preparing our students in the best way possible to get them ready, for the world of housing counseling because it's something that's so different from what they've been doing previously. But we have created this curriculum to make it so it's easy for anyone to understand that doesn't have a background in housing or real estate. And we've been really successful so far in educating our students and kind of getting them to, take that next step and work within this field. We also have some additional trainings too. We work with Lee Lester with the Ubuntu Institute of Learning. We have a 2 week training, and then we also have a 4 week training with Housing Action Illinois. So, we want to make sure that our trainings are as comprehensive as possible and just able to, reach students based off of like their schedule. But overall, we always trying to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to support the students. We have office hours for them. We're around the clock ready for them as far as like any like logistical issues with the exam or anything of that nature. So we always try to make sure that we're here to support them in any way possible. And we're always looking for relationships to make sure that our students get placed, after they take the exam and pass it.
So, Miss Ivy, do you know how many people have passed the exam in like this fall semester? Just out of curiosity, you know better than I do because you keep in touch with those individuals.
Yeah, so because of the holiday season, they had a few reschedules, and some students haven't gotten back to me yet, but I can say there have been at least 6 students that have passed the exam.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we anticipate having another training in April as well. So as far as if you have
Yes.
people that are um, interested in um, enrolling into the academy, we will send announcements as far as when that will be and how they can register.
And just curious, out of those 6 folks that did pass the HUD, did any of them get employed as a housing counselor?
So a few of the students were currently working to find employment and reaching out to different housing counseling agencies. So if there are openings, please let us know. And then the other students, they are already working for a housing counseling agency.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Now I have a question. Now that we're talking about estate planning, are you planning to uh change or to move the academy to also to train people about estate planning?
I would say this, like, because of course we do our own estate planning workshops. I would say that is just our presentation is like partnering with community legal services and just knowing the particular topics. I mean, the fact is that's not a certification requirement that I think so whereby it's a test that you have to pass. It's more so recognize, I think, for many of your other organizations, like attending some of those like workshops and those particular trainings so they can get an understanding of what um, the importance of that work.
The same goes with HECOM. I know neighbor works and you can get,
Mhm.
but maybe having the same thing that you're doing for the hot test, for the HECOM test, because it's also a hot test and it's kind of the same setting. That could be a good idea to have something here in Philadelphia,
Oh, we
a
actually
training for.
so one of our agency counselors, we went out to Massachusetts that has like 10 HECM counselors, and we encourage them to like create their own training that then could be shared here in Pennsylvania. So, it's like peer-to-peer learning, I think is always important.
So I just wonder if we have any questions, Rashida, in the Q&A about it.
No.
No question.
No.
Nope.
So if we don't have any questions, so we can move to the next topic. So maybe we can end the in-service a little sooner. So the next one is HEMAP appeals process, and that's gonna be Ryan Franks from POP. Now, just to remind the counselors, yesterday we emailed all the materials that we're talking about today. So there are two documents for this next subject. One is one presented by POP, and the other one is part of DACD contract that housing counseling have to do during counseling. When a housing counselor has a HEMAP application, the housing counselor needs to explain about the right to appeal a denial. And that's a form that you need to explain to the homeowner. The homeowner have to sign it, and the homeowner takes the original, and you keep the copy in the folder. So, but we can talk about this later after Ryan is done, or DHCD is having a DHCD session after the break, so we can talk about that document at that time. But in the meantime, so we welcome Ryan Franks for the HEMAP appeals process.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Good morning. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the HEMAP appeal process. Um, there's two ways a client does a HEMAP appeal. Once either the homeowner, the other counselor, or myself, we send in the request. If it's a missing document issue, the homeowner is mailed a letter from HEMAP saying these are the documents you need to submit, and they are given a week to submit those documents. If they don't submit the documents within a week, usually without speaking to me or the HEMAP appeals officer, a decision is made, and HEMAP mails the decision to the homeowner. They don't update me on the decision. Once we submit the documents, I don't hear anything from HEMAP unless there's a missing document. So if everything is submitted and whether the client is denied or the HEMAP appeal is approved, I don't get notification until either the client tells me or the other housing counselor tells me. The second appeal process is the actual hearing. So we submit the request. The client is then scheduled for a telephone hearing, usually Monday or Tuesday between the hours of 9 and 10. They're about an hour long. Each of the hearings over the phone is recorded. All of my hearings have been with Ms. Rosalind Dean. The point of the hearing is for the client to explain their rebut to the HEMAP denial. So whatever the reason is, the client has to provide documentation. Usually, depending on what the denial is, if it's lack of income, client has to provide more income. If the client is over the 24 months, the client needs to show HEMAP that they have the money in the bank, or at least show that they're applying for mortgage assistance. But the HEMAP case is not going to stay open too long. I can maybe keep it open for maybe a month, maybe. But if there's no documents being submitted and the client is just not providing what the HEMAP is asking for, then usually a letter is mailed out. And if the client is denied, I don't know until either I get to court and the counselor tells me, or the homeowner themselves tell me. Both cases, the client only gets a week to submit documents. Now, if we have to do reinstatement quotes, things like that, we can ask for an extension. But if the homeowner is not submitting documents, there's not a lot that I can do. So I am getting a lot of HEMAP appeals. Some are coming through housing counselors, some are just clients that are just calling. And those are the ones that are probably the most difficult because they're usually calling the day before their appeal is over, if not right after that day. And it's really hard to get documents from some clients. Now, I know that counselors are like trying their best to get the documents, but I just wanted to let the counselors know that HEMAP doesn't tell me anything once I do the appeal. So if I'm giving you an update, it's because the client and I are working together, and that's an update. If the client disappears on me, I send emails, I try to call, but if they don't respond, there's really nothing I can do as far as with PHFA. That's about it. I just want to know if there are any questions. Does anybody have any issues?
Yes, I want to add something about HEMAP clients and HEMAP appeal clients. So when a homeowner comes to a housing counseling agency with an Act 91, the housing counselor have to complete the HEMAP application, and that client stays with that housing counseling agency. If the HEMAP application gets denied, they have the right to appeal, and POP is the one doing the appeal. But the homeowner, the client, stays with the original housing counseling agency. POP is only going to complete the appeal of the denial. So that's why, Ryan is saying that if not, if they don't, the homeowner doesn't follow up, she doesn't get the answer. So it's the original homeowner who needs to follow up with the homeowner to learn about PHFA's decisions about the denial. So it's not because it's going to pop, the housing council will forget about this client. No, Bob is only doing the appeal application. So just to clarify that. And I don't know if there are questions.
No questions yet.
Also, just a second, Bob. In the documents that I share, there is one under PHFA, and it has a link that is taking you to a YouTube channel, and it's PHFA YouTube channel, and that link actually goes directly to HEMAP, how to learn about completing a HEMAP application. Okay, I'm sorry, Bob. Good morning.
My turn?
Well, not really,
Okay.
but yes.
So I have a question about the volume of appeals. Brian, how many, per month do you think you're doing?
Now,
Yeah.
so the hearings, maybe about 5, but the missing document ones, I get quite a few, maybe like 10. But those are the easy ones, the missing documents, because it's just me getting the documents and sending them over. The hearings are the ones that maybe about 5 a month. Yeah.
So a total of about 15?
Mm-hmm.
And
And
are you the
sometimes
one-
I get them from outside of Philly too.
And you handle those?
Yes.
Okay. And so are you the only counselor at PUP doing the appeals?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a concern because HEMAP has been sort of in the hiatus period while we had half. And so we're beginning to see more new cases coming into foreclosure. So there's going to be an increase in the need for HEMAPs. And given the sort of way that this works out, there's probably going to need to be more appeals, right? And the way that it's structured, because of the way PHFA has set this up, PUP's the only agency that can do the appeals, right? So I think we're going to need somebody to assist you with that because you're also doing regular counseling, right?
Yes.
So DHCD, what do we need to do to look into that?
Well, I believe that's a conversation with PHFA. So if they're gonna,
Yeah, so this is Justin. My understanding is any agency could do an appeal. I never was under impression it was just PUP.
Well, it's set up procedurally because we don't want the same agency that did the application to do the appeal. So we just structured it that way. PUP doesn't do the actual applications.
Got it. So yeah, what I could do is it'd probably be good to set up a meeting with the director of HEMAP, Kelly Wilson, and her team, so we could have a more in-depth conversation about this.
Okay.
And figure out a solution. So I will let Kelly know that we had this conversation, and we'll be back in touch.
Okay. But for the immediate future, we need to beef up PUP, assuming that you start to go from 15 to 25. That's going to take you away from your normal counseling load, and then that will suffer. So we need to distribute the work a little bit better. If we can get to the point where we don't have to isolate PUP, and then PUP could actually do HEMAP applications and wasn't the only agency doing appeals, but other agencies could do the appeals, that would be great. But that's not where we are right now. Food for thought, anyway.
Well, I can say that I do have Laura, and Laura has been taking a lot off. So if it does get too heavy, Laura has been willing to take a big load of my foreclosure stuff off of me. So for right now, I'm okay. I got Laura for right now.
Yeah, for right now, right? But again, I'm anticipating that we're going to be using HEMAP a whole lot more than we have over the past 2 years.
There's a question from the Q&A and it says, do you know why PHFA does not allow counselors to be involved on the appeal call?
I don't know. Since I've been doing it, it's only been PUP. Now, homeowners can do the appeal on their own as well. I've had some clients that have done it on their own and that have come to me after the fact, but I don't know why counselors can't. I don't know whether it might just be a DHCD thing. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I do know that it was structurally set up that way. I mean, it was intentionally done to isolate the appeals to one agency. That's why you don't do HEMAPs. It was decided that way. I don't know if that was the city deciding that or that was PHFA. So if it was PHFA, then of course we have an issue. If it was just a city, then we could change that. But yeah, so
I
CLS
don't
does help
know.
with appeals. So there is some sharing of the appeal process. And PLA has done appeals. So sort of as a hit or miss kind of thing. But it does seem like if we're anticipating an increase in the volume of HEMAP applications, we're also going to have an increase in the volume of appeals. So, you may not be burdened now, but if you start to have 25 per month, things could change quickly.
And I don't have an answer about why was it structured that way, but if it's city, I mean, DCT, we can modify that.
Well, it's been that way since I started, so it's been that way for
Me
at
too,
least,
yeah. So that's
So
why I say probably it's PHFA at this, I don't know.
it could be, but I don't know. I mean, there's some sense to it because obviously the counselor that did the application is invested in the outcome, so there is some sense to doing the appeals with a neutral agency. But if it's not required, then I certainly do appeals of cases that I've applied. And since you won't let lawyers file applications, we're stuck with we're in the second seat here.
Well, I guess we can wait till Justin meets with the person at
Yeah, no,
PHFA.
absolutely.
But it definitely would be beneficial to at least have another agency. So if we can
Yeah.
at least get another one, then I think that would be very beneficial for, how about Ryan and, everyone involved, not just have the burden on PUP.
Yeah, I'm sending the email as we speak.
Yeah, right.
Perfect.
Ryan's being diplomatic about the amount of work that's needed. It's basically another housing counseling slot, right? So
What I could say is 80% of the time, I have a lot of support from the counselors. So there's only a few times where it's been where there's no communication from the client, there's no communication from the counselor. We get to diversion, we get to something, and then, but most of the time it's as long as there's communication, and then it's not too much of a burden. But I do know that one thing that I'm starting to see is because the client has a right to appeal. Now the problem is, what do we do with the clients that are appealing? And we all know that it's not going to go anywhere. That's
well,
what.
welcome to my world then, Ryan. Okay. So, the truth is, it's the people that are not communicating that are time draining, right? And that's taking you away from your foreclosure homeowners. And so, yes, I understand that that's the time consumption piece of it, but that's what I'm talking about. It's more
Plus,
time
it's also
consuming.
had to do a lot with the HEMAP application per se. So if you present a very weak application, the chances to get approval are minimum. But at the same time, if this person appeals, so Ryan now is in the position to have a weak HEMAP application and then to appeal the PHFA decision with maybe a homeowner who's not cooperating that much either. So, but
That's
that's something
absolutely a
that I would
reason.
like to talk to PHFA HEMAP about how how do we complete good applications? So how do we make the case a strong case for the assistance? Because, historically also the denials are more than 60% of the applications. And yes, it's a loan. It's not like it's a grant that you're getting, it's a loan, and sometimes it has interest attached to it. But at the same time, at this point, it's the only assistance that homeowners are getting. So why denying HEMAP's applications are so high? It's such a high number.
Well, so I think that's a good justification for saying we should have some training on how to do a good HEMAP application, because you're right. If you front load it with a really good application, chances are you're going to get approved, which is what the ultimate goal here is. So yeah, I don't know who could do that. Hopefully it's somebody that's available to do a decent training, a couple hours probably.
Yeah, we could definitely set that up,
Right.
here at BHFA. We do have the webinar, which is pretty comprehensive. I think it's about an hour-long training that you all can watch on demand on our YouTube channel, as Fran had mentioned. But we could also set up some type of specific training with HEMAP and some of Kelly's folks to kind of go through the process with you, answer questions, do all of that as well.
I think that would be really helpful, Justin.
I
Yeah.
have a question for Ryan. Ryan, what are the common reasons that when clients come in for need help with appeals, why were they denied? And what would you've been able to do to advocate or argue that they should have been approved, and that particularly those that you've been most successful with?
So the easiest one to the most common denial is insufficient income, lack of hardship, or you have a previous HEMAP loan that you have either defaulted on, or you're really close to your 24-month limit, and they want to see how much you have saved to meet you at that limit. The most common one is insufficient income and lack of hardship. The easiest way to fix insufficient income is to send more income. Some clients don't send all their income. So if you send just your Social Security, but you have a part-time job, and then we send that as well, usually it's remanded back to the officer, back to the loan officer, and then they go from there. If there's missing documents, maybe they asked you for an updated ID, maybe they asked you for some type of bill or something that you didn't send. If we send that and then it goes back. So it's usually missing documents and income. Those are the easiest ones. The hardest ones to really overturn is the hardship. Because if HEMAP doesn't feel it's a hardship, it's hard to get the client to explain what their hardship is if HEMAP has already decided your hardship's not a hardship. So
Yeah, so that's what you bolster with on the application, right? You work on the actual wording of the hardship. But I have an issue with the income, because the law is reasonable prospects within the next 24 months of being able to resume the mortgage payment. That doesn't mean you have the income today. It means you have the prospects for it. Are those kinds of issues getting to the appeals hearing or not?
so yes and no. I've had a couple clients that have had that issue, and we've gone back and forth, back and forth. Um, some have been able to, provide that I have one client in particular who went to a job interview, and she got to, I think, the second part, and she was able to send them that stuff,
Yeah.
her onboarding stuff, and then they reviewed her, they remanded it. So that's one of the hardest things, because I've even tried to say, okay, well, the client is looking for a job, the client is bringing in, but that's the wall that's one of the hardest ones with the income. If they don't provide additional income, it's very hard for me to get HEMAP to move.
Yeah. But that's also something that you could explain in the application process, right? I mean, so I mean, this is all going back to if you build up the application itself, perhaps we can avoid the appeal. But in any event, two of the issues that have come up where you're beyond the 24 months. I don't know how many times I've explained to counselors, you need to explain in the application how you're going to buy down to the HEMAP limit if you know you're beyond the 24 months. And you can calculate that by looking at the act notice. So if you're applying on month 26 and you don't explain in the application how you're going to pay those 2 months, you're going to get denied. Right? And so explain it, figure out how you're going to do it at the outset. And the other is if you know that you've got a HEMAP out there and it's not current, you also are going to get turned down because you have a current delinquency on the HEMAP. So you should explain how are you going to get caught up with the HEMAP that you have. Those are things that can be explained at the application stage. They shouldn't wait until it gets to appeal because you're going to be another 2 months behind by the time you get to the appeal, right? Or even more.
And I need to add
And then
for
you're going to need 2 more
on the
months.
DHCD counseling, it's kind of mandatory to pull the credit report. And yes, we're not expecting fully credit repair counseling for D&D clients, but it's good information for the housing counselor. They will see if there is another HEMAP application listed under the credit report. Now, with this said, are we moving to CLS PLA presentation?
Actually, just have a
Oh.
quick
We
question.
can sort of say we've transitioned over, sure.
Yeah. So the we can do the transition
But
this
I
way,
still want to
but
stay on the HEMAP for a moment
no, yeah,
because
perfect.
I strongly believe that like more than a 1 hour training is what's needed here because you need to have an explanation for these kinds of things on how specifically counselors can address them at the application stage.
No,
And
that's
so,
fine. We
yeah,
can
okay.
stay under this. Thank you so much, Ryan, for participating and share the information.
No
Also, I
problem.
didn't thank Ken Pigos for his part. Thank you, Ken. And now can we move to CLS, PLA? And I know Jane has a question, I believe, for Ryan.
Well, actually, Bob. Bob,
Okay.
are HEMAPs, can we use HEMAPs for HELOCs?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing you can't use them for is an FHA loan.
Yeah.
You can use them for an installment contract, rent to own. The only thing that's out is an FHA mortgage.
And you have to really fight for a matured loan. So
Yeah. Okay.
And I
If
just to
Kia's
let
on,
you
then
know,
that answers
everybody
the
is,
question.
for whoever is using the last link that I sent to the panelists, friend Yuri Medina is going to be more than one time as a panelist. So yoo-hoo.
There's multiple plans.
I cloned myself like 10 times today. Good.
So just to follow up on that, yes, matured loans don't have a payment to resume, right? Part of the HEMAP is you're going to resume the mortgage payment. So that is another area. But as Michelle points out, we can sometimes get PHFA to pay off a matured loan and use a HEMAP to pay that off. So it's not completely excluded, but it does require an awful lot of advocacy. But just as a straightforward, if somebody comes into you with a matured loan, HEMAP's probably not going to be the first thing you think about. Fran, can I share? Did you send around the block?
It's part of the materials.
Okay.
I think you can share if you go to more at the bottom and if you click that, Bob, you should see share up at the top.
It's a green,
Mhm.
green link there. Yeah.
Okay, good morning, folks. I guess this is our time. So we were asked to do a refresher on divergent procedures and how best to utilize the services that are available to counselors. And so we wanted to start with, and Fran was the court protocols, have those been shared?
Actually, if you add it to what I needed to share, yes. If not, no.
Okay.
Let me see.
So
Yes, they will share. It's
it
part of
was
the
here,
sentence.
right? So let's start with that. Sorry, folks, we're really well prepared here. So if folks have gotten this, hopefully, and had a chance to review it, this document is a product of the years of effort that you all have been putting in over the last decade or so. I think it was something created when we were in person, and there were certain processes that OHCD expected counselors to follow, including when to go talk to Bob Lukens, when to go talk to Margaret Robinson, the whole spiel. You all remember that. So what we tried to do is modify that a bit for what the version's been like while we've been on remote. And I know all of you that have been on remote with us do realize that things are vastly different on remote than they were in person. But I believe that we've adapted very nicely to going remotely, and I think everyone's been doing a fabulous job. I do think that we have managed to rise to the occasion, and I think we don't want to go back to in person. Okay, so that being said, I think there are some things that we were doing in person that had a great deal of benefit that we have not figured out how to do while we're on remote. And so this was an effort to try and revamp the in-person stuff that we were doing in a way that could be modified so that we could follow these in a remote world. But basically, what I was asked to remind you about was that we are in a court process still, despite the fact that we're all on computers or phones. This is still a court process. And so in a court process, the way that we have proceeded here is you've got a lawyer for the bank and you've got you representing the homeowner. And we are in a legal situation where the parties are supposed to talk through their representatives. And so we strongly encourage you to communicate with the bank's lawyer. Okay. One of the things that we have learned over the last 3 years of doing this remotely is the other side, the lawyer side, isn't always communicating with their client very well. And so there has been a sense of a breakdown in communications sometimes in terms of where we are with the loss mitigation applications that you all have been helping the homeowners work on. I know that's been frustrating for you. It's been frustrating for pretty much everybody. And I don't know how to resolve it from the side of the law firm, but we can try to do something to help from our side. And that is to do the communications in a way that can be sort of followed, that you can track your steps and you can report on actually what you've done. To that end, we have provided you with a list of the law firms, okay? And that is the counselors can find the contact for the law firms at this particular Google Docs site. Hopefully everybody has been able to access that. Michelle and I try to keep it up to date, so when a new lawyer shows up in the version, we try to update it. Unfortunately, as you might have noticed, the law firms have had a lot of turnover. So you finally get adjusted to having one person that you're communicating with, and then that person's changed firms without telling anybody, and you're sending communications over to that person and not getting any update on where you are until you come into court and you find out, oh, well, that lawyer is no longer with the firm. And also service transfers. Those always don't get communicated to us. So you're communicating with one servicer and it's been transferred and you're basically shooting into the dark here because you're not getting any communication back from the law firms. What we want is to be able to track that. So if you have communicated and it's falling on deaf ears, then we can say something when we're in court about what the law firm needs to do to beef that up. The law firms all gave us, well, not all, the larger law firms gave us a person to contact for diversion communications specifically. If you go to the spreadsheet, it's the middle column that says this is the contact for diversion specific communications. If you are sending your documents and your communications to that specific diversion contact and you're not getting good results, you need to let me know so I can bring that to the attention of the law firm. Okay. I'm not going to go through the rest of this. I think you can read this on your own. And if you have any questions about this, another thing I'm supposed to remind you about is after every session on Thursdays, we do stay on the call and try to answer questions and have some discussion about what went on and if something new has come up and that kind of thing. So you are encouraged to stay on after diversion or to sign in if that's you haven't been in diversion, you just want to get some questions answered. You can sign into the diversion link and join us. Unfortunately, I can't say, do you have any questions, because I won't hear whether you have any questions. But do you have any questions about that and the procedures that we drafted?
Bob, right now there are no questions in the Q&A.
All right. Then let me go to where is
But
the blog?
something that you just said, Bob, is I believe good to go over again. If a housing counselor doesn't have clients during the diversion, but they want to be part of the after diversion get together with Bob and counselors, you're welcome to, sign into the Zoom. Maybe around 2 is good time to do it. If you don't want to listen to the diversion part, 2:30. So just to keep in mind that, and probably Michelle will let you into the Zoom.
Yeah, we do welcome folks to come in and ask questions. That's why we're making ourselves available, leaving into the late afternoon. And we'll stay on as long as there's questions. Also, CLS plans to do a quarterly in-service. So they have, or we have an in-service scheduled for next Friday, 10 to 11:30. Probably there will be some kind of an agenda, but you can certainly sign in and ask questions there. And then Michelle's going to talk about the CLS liaison setup that we have. So there are lawyers that you can talk to during the middle of the week when questions come up.
And another important thing to go over again is the idea of the blog. Well, since things have changed, now we're doing Zoom. The blog, most of the time we were doing during the diversion time, during the conciliation time. But now it gets a little more complicated doing it during Zoom. So because now you have the information about the blog, so you can contact CLS or PLA before Monday, Tuesday, days before the conciliation. So you don't have to wait until the conciliation to talk to CLS or PLA, because it takes away it takes too much time, and sometimes too many counselors trying to have this conversation. They use Bob, they use Michelle, they use Jane, and then there is another case that needs an attorney, and everybody's busy, so we have to wait. And it's hard now to control who is next. So sometimes Lisa say the next is Orberly to say something, and actually it's Congreso. So it's better to do all these block or issues prior, few days before conciliation.
Can't seem to get the block up. What have I done?
What do you want to do?
I want to have it shared.
Stop sharing.
Do you want to stop sharing, Bob, and I'll share my screen?
While you all are doing that, there are now a couple of questions.
Okay.
Bob, someone wants to know if you mentioned that it's been an increase in cases showing up to diversion. They want to know if this volume is consistent with last year or more like the years prior to the pandemic. And then similar to HEMAP, does it seem like we have the right amount of counselors, are the two questions?
So it appears we're seeing about the same amount of new cases as we saw 2 years ago. So last year was a particularly heavy load for some reason. But it's still an uptick from what we have been seeing over the last few months. So I think we're going to start seeing new cases at a higher rate than we saw over the last 2 years. Because all of the forbearance as in moratoriums and that kind of stuff are now over. And so I think we're basically at about 130 per week. I think we're going to hit 150 pretty quickly. I don't believe we're going to get up to where we were in 2011 when we were seeing 300 a week. At least I pray we don't. And I forget what the second question was, Rashida. Something about HEMAP.
Yeah, similar to HEMAP, does it seem like we have the right amount of counselors?
So that I don't know the answer to. So every agency is doing HEMAPs, right?
Yes.
So I think we have the right number of counselors. What we don't have the right number of is doing the appeals. That was my main concern. I don't think we're going to be overwhelmed with HEMAP applications. The problem with HEMAPs from our perspective right now is it's the only game in town for most people because of where interest rates are. So most people are going to want to cure the delinquency rather than get a modification.
I'm not sure I'm not sure if this is Abraham or someone else, because it just says Urban League. I will unmute. It's Abraham. So I am going to unmute Abraham so that he can further explain his question. Abraham, give me 1 second.
I was wondering if Abraham meant, are there enough diversion certified counselors right now available for referrals for diversion cases?
Diversion certified per se?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I can answer.
What is the question again?
Are there enough diversion certified
Well,
counselors?
I'm just guessing while we wait for Abraham to unmute, but
I am muted a couple of Urban League. Let me see if Abraham is on here.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there you
Yes.
go.
I am sorry. Thank you so much, guys. I know that's a lot, and there's so many of us here, and thank you for everything you do and for this opportunity to speak. We know that foreclosure prevention just kind of would have been kind of a signature activity for housing counseling agencies, really transformed during the pandemic. We had all these other programs that kind of became the norm, including HAF. Now we're talking about HEMAP. And during that time, the configuration of some of the agencies changed. For us, for example, we're doing a lot more pre-purchase counseling than we're doing foreclosure prevention. We're very involved with the eviction diversion program. So now I hear Bob sharing his perspective on all of these issues, and I can stop thinking whether I have and other organizations have the right amount of foreclosure certified housing counselors dedicated to this activity. I don't want to be blindsided, and I'm sure other agencies will appreciate that as well. I don't want us to be blindsided by a sudden increase in volume. Bob, thank you so much for letting us know that forbearances are not are expiring, and there are other factors that are contributing to those changes. It sounds to me like some of this is changing on the attorney lender side as well. Uh, Anecdotally, we have seen a change in the dynamic because of how the market overall, the housing market has changed, and there's an expectation that if someone falls behind on the payment, then maybe the graceful exit might be the norm, at least for them, not for us. So it's I just I'm it's an honest question about capacity for us. I think it ties into what Ken was talking about with bringing more counselors into this process. We know that there is a home initiative coming out, and there are going to be a lot more there's going to be a lot more need for housing counselors. So I want to be prepared and dedicate enough attention to foreclosure prevention. Thank you.
Question you want answered there. So this is my perspective, okay, folks? I don't think the economy is doing as well as they'd like us to believe that it is. I believe that we are going to see more people not having enough income to keep their mortgage payments going. So I believe that there's going to be more delinquency going on. I also believe that there is less help available because the government doesn't seem to want to help anybody these days. And so we're stuck with what we have. Does that mean that we don't have enough counselors? I don't think so, except for the fact that we're going to see more tax problems. We're going to see more eviction problems. And so when you add in, if we start seeing more foreclosure problems, then yes, you folks are going to be, you're going to be, you're going to need that program that Ken offers for self-help to, how do you take care of yourself with the stress that's going on? Now, that could all be, me being a naysayer, and it could all be that the economy's, turn around and everybody's going to be happy. But I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think that's where we're headed. I think rich people are getting much richer, and so everybody's pretending like everything's happy. In my own family, people are struggling. So I just think that's what we're headed for. So yes, it's better to be prepared, but again, if the government's not providing things, how, we're not going to be able to hire more people because the government's not going to fund more. So we're going to have to do more with less. We managed to do that during the pandemic, folks. You all rose to the occasion. We managed to basically weather that storm in a miraculous way. So I do believe that we're prepared for this. But I just think that we're fooling ourselves if we think the economy is going to take off for everybody.
And so, Bob, hi, I just like to add that just so you all know, with a lot of the new initiatives that are being proposed, in the background, which I'm always in the background, really, these are some of the things that I have brought forth to leadership here, who are connected to the administration, and thinking in terms of the load and the need for assistance from the housing counselors. This is something that's always sort of in the back end of the conversations when we talk about, new things that are coming around as well. The load that is on housing counselors is something that I definitely bring up often, as well as the economy. So just echoing your sentiments, Bob, with that. And to prepare for it, I'm not really sure. I know that keeping it at the forefront of the conversation at the table is something that I'm doing. So just wanted to put that out there.
That's terrific. We do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank you.
This was not intended to scare folks, okay? So that's not my intention here. We're trying to explain what resources we have in place that are being underutilized. And so we want to encourage you to use the resources that we have in the best possible way. And so the block is one area where we, just through experience and learning what did and didn't work, found that it was beneficial for counselors as well as homeowners to have some consultation about these sticky legal issues that complicate the work that you're doing and trying to get a resolution to a loan delinquency. And so I think we probably will need to do, Jane, I think we'll probably need to do an actual training on this, on the block and the procedures. So I think what we'll do is ask for a 2-hour session sometimes in the next few weeks to go over all of this that we're talking about in 20 minutes.
I do have a whole PowerPoint on the block. So
great.
Ready for that training.
So these are just the issues that we have found to come up for counselors that impede the work that you're doing. So Jane, do you want to just go over the block or should I?
Sure. Okay, so power of attorney. So I just want to note we do get many calls on the hotline. Well, not many, but a few from folks who are claiming to be somebody's power of attorney, specifically the homeowner's power of attorney. And before we open a case and give advice or refer to a housing counselor, we will always make sure and get a copy of that power of attorney to review and to make sure that it actually authorizes that person to act on the homeowner's behalf in regards to the mortgage foreclosure action. And if we do get a copy of that power of attorney, we'll make sure and include it in the referral to the housing counselor. But in the event that you are in a situation where you have somebody show up with a document and they're alleging that they're the power of attorney of a homeowner in mortgage foreclosure, it's pretty important that you reach out to CLS or PLA to just take a look at that document to make sure that it in fact does authorize them to act, and just for us to review for authenticity. Bob, did you have any thoughts on power of attorneys?
Yes, but we're sort of running out of time. So
Yeah, we've got 4 minutes. Okay.
just with power of attorney per se, Jane's point is about the legal efficacy of a power of attorney. Lots of our folks use their family to communicate about stuff, okay? And they don't need a bona fide power of attorney for somebody to take them to their appointment or to bring in documents or any of that kind of stuff. A power of attorney is an actual legal authority to speak on behalf of somebody. And so that requires a little bit more oomph to it. Okay. But just helping somebody out, I think we need to encourage that. So if you have any question about somebody who's saying I'm here for mom, etc., and you doubt that that person's actually, trying to work for mom, then you should follow up with PLA or CLS and ask whether this is something that you should help with.
Yeah, so and FHA, PHFAs, FHA specifically, I'm sure that the CLS training next Friday, is going to cover the new FHA waterfall that went into effect in October. So definitely try to attend that. And let's see, reverse mortgages, we all see a lot of reverse mortgages right now. I think the key issue is whether or not you're dealing with the borrower or you're dealing with an heir. That's going to set forth what your next steps are going to be. This is rough. We've got mortgage foreclosure scams. We've come across a number of cases where clients are referred to housing counselors, and then they tell the housing counselor that they no longer need to work with them because they have obtained an out-of-state attorney, or they're working with an out-of-state law firm to deal with the mortgage delinquency. And those are almost certainly a scam. They are charging extensive fees for work that you guys all do for homeowners for free, and you have far more expertise than these scam artists do. If this sounds familiar, if something like this happens, please loop in PLA or CLS. There are times we can get the money that's been spent refunded, but we can definitely kind of talk some sense into the homeowner who is paying a scam artist. Okay, inherited properties. Obviously a big deal. When cases go through the hotline, we do try to catch all the tangled titles. The problem is that they're not all simple, and so we aren't going to have an answer right away. It is always, if you're wondering if PLA is working on a case or if CLS is working on a case that has a tangled title, just loop me in. And I know CLS has a liaison program. Really for PLA, it's me. And the referring hotline paralegal, or if it's in diversion, you can loop in Stephanie Cawley. I will quickly just right here. So ask Cawley at phillegal.org and me for diversion cases. And then if you generally just want to refer a case to PLA, you can tell a client to call the hotline. But then also please email me, Emily Torres and Lex Atkins, because then we will make sure and do a callback and give that person legal advice quickly and then loop you in on it. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Bob, you want to say anything?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
But talking about doing block uh protocol and HEMAP training would be nice.
Oh, 100%.
Having
I
them.
would love sitting on
Yes.
the heat map training.
Yeah. So we can think about that and plan that. So we're gonna take a break from if there are no questions. So from well, Michelle, do you want to add something before
Yeah.
the break? Still we're coming back at 11:15.
Okay. Would you like me to wait? It's up to you. I'm just going to talk about the liaison list for a minute. Do you want me to do that when we come back?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Hi, folks. So I'm from Community Legal Services. I'm a paralegal, but we work with a team of attorneys at Community Legal Services. It's easy to get us mixed up with PLA. I've talked about getting like a Canva PowerPoint to be like, here's the picture and the email address of the contact here at Philadelphia Legal, and here's who's at Community Legal Services. I'm just gonna really quick share the liaison list that is going to be, it should be easy access on our website. But here is the list of all the agencies that are DHCD funded and their counselor and liaison. You can find this on our website, and I put a link in the chat. It's not updated yet. The list that we have on there right now has some old information. So by the end of the week, this should be completely current on our website. We just had to update with some staff. We have assigned a lawyer or paralegal advocate to each agency as a sort of a reliable way to contact if you have questions, if you have referrals, you can contact your person. The thing is, if you've already been communicating with someone, if you at your agency have been communicating with someone who's not assigned to you on this liaison list, that's fine. If you want to keep your relationship, if you have an ongoing relationship with someone, I know tons of people also communicate with Bob, but we are, and that's fine. He will continue to field calls and questions and emails and referrals. But this is your assigned advocate who is ready and expecting to be able to answer questions for you. You can reach them by email and most by phone. Property tax questions for everybody go to our faithful tax team liaison, Kate Dugan. And for us, the probate and tangle title and deed and successor and interest needs go to Rachel Gallegos. And her contact information is down there. So again, this will be on the website. And if you don't see your agency on this list, please let me know right away, because we tried to keep it as up to date as possible, but things have changed and names have changed and things like that. So so I will update that as needed.
Just
Anyway.
heads up.
Does it say, it says that page can't be found? Okay.
The link
Let
has an
me,
S on it. Take the S off.
got it. All right. So it's clsvilla.org. I always forget HC referral.
No S.
That should be it. Thank you. And I will get that all updated and sent to you, and I'll send it out as an attachment as well. That's all. We good?
Absolutely. So just to reiterate, this is an effort to give you backup support. Okay, just one more resource to use at your discretion. You're not required to contact your liaison. Michelle and I are always, and Jane, we're always ready and available to help you. So that hasn't changed, but we just wanted to encourage CLS to participate a little bit more actively in the process. So they are making themselves available for consultations if you want to go that route. And we encourage you to do that.
Okay, so thank you so much. It's 11:05. Still, we're coming back at 11:15 because the last presentation is a little long, so they need the time. So we're gonna take a break for 10 minutes. See you then.
Fran, what time are we finished?
So far, 12:30. Hopefully a little before that, but 12:30.
12:30. Okay, I have to leave at 12.
Okay. The 11 part, so from 11:30 to 12:30 is the portal for the eviction diversion program. So
Is the portal?
yeah, we have a portal for all
Okay.
the eviction
Right.
diversion
I'd
cases.
like to hear about that, but I do have to leave at 12. So,
No, but I believe the first half an hour is going to be good enough for you.
all right, great. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Hi, Fran.
Hello.
Would you
Yes.
like me to share the PowerPoint from my screen?
Well, I'm doing I need like a few minutes,
Yeah,
but yes, you can share it from
I'll
your
share it.
screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just quick go over what is the screen now? No, not I cannot find the mouse. Mm. Okay, so we're back, and I'm Fran Medina from the Division of Housing and Community Development, and one of the contract analysts here at the DHCD. And today I'm going to talk about the contract documents for year 51. All these documents are part of the contract, and some of them require signatures from the housing counselor or the homeowner or the home buyer. One is the foreclosure prevention counseling form. That's part of the pre-purchase counseling. It was shared yesterday in an email. It's part of the material for today. But let me see. And I'm talking about this form. So this is part of the pre-purchase counseling, and it needs to be completed by the housing counselor and signed by the home buyer. It's in Spanish and in English. Then we have the zero income form, also as part of it can be used for different services. Pre-purchase, post-purchase, default and delinquency, rental counseling. And this is to say that the family or a family member doesn't have any type of income. Also, we have let's open it, the non-financial assistant COVID-19 and income certification. This is only for the housing counseling agencies that are receiving CDBG, CV money, funds. It's only a few agencies. If you are not sure if your agency is receiving CDBG, CV, please contact your supervisor, program manager, and this person is going to tell you if you are receiving CDBG, CV. This form is more for default and delinquency cases. So eviction diversion, mortgage diversion. And let's see. Also, I want to go over a little bit, and I'm doing this fast because I don't want to take too much time, how to use RX for eviction diversion clients. Now, the difference between the eviction diversion clients and the eviction diversion counseling is that part. The counseling part, actually, is when you have an eviction diversion or a tenant that is behind their payments, and if you don't do counseling, action plan, income, budget, if you don't complete all these steps, you cannot use RX for this client. You can just stay with the portal, and in the next few minutes, you're gonna go, you're gonna learn more about the portal, but RX is only when you have a complete counseling session with one of the eviction diversion clients. Then we're gonna go, and we share this again, the RX outline. This is good to have it. What cases, case type, case statuses, and what actions is to be completed to
Fran,
count that case. Yes.
excuse me. Are you showing? Someone just said there are asking if there are supposed to be forms that people can see on the screen. Are you clicking on forms that people should be able to see, or are you just clicking through the
Yes.
list? Yeah, we're getting the little blue circle, but we're not seeing the forms. So
Yeah, they're not popping up, Fran. I thought you were just showing the names of the documents, but if you're using the hyperlinks, they're not taking you to the actual forms.
Yeah, and I'm moving the form to the screen. Sorry, so I'm not
Mm-mm.
showing that. But anyway, it's part of the contract, and they were shared yesterday. And
Very
it's
nice.
the same title is part of the documents, and they were saved with the same names. But I'm gonna have a problem with the schedule of completion because I need to show that. So
Yeah,
let me
you're
just
going to need to stop sharing and
Stop
share each one of
sharing,
those
yeah,
things.
this
and share
document, and
again.
then
Yeah.
share
Each
the
of the
actual
new
schedule of
forms.
completion.
Hold on a second. Can you see it now?
No, we're still looking at the one document. There you go.
Sorry, and I was trying to be really fast. Anyway, so I want to talk about the schedule of completion for this year because we changed it. These are all the case statuses that are part of RX, part of our contract. Every single agency gets a schedule of completion. It goes from the moment that the contract starts until it ends, 12 months. What we do is we distribute families or clients with, during those 12 months and the case statuses that the housing counseling agency has to serve. So, for example, we want to see, and it goes also with the amount of funding that the agency is getting. So that's why I couldn't show you like one with numbers because it changes. But let's see, you receive $300,000. We have to divide that amount and divide it by all these case statuses and also by month. And it gives us an idea how many cases you need to see a year. So let's see, is one home purchase counseling a month, so 12 a year, mortgage diversion, maybe 3 a month, 36 a year. The difference from the previous schedule of completion and this year is this section, the EDP portal, because we know how difficult it is to get proof of income and document from the eviction diversion clients. We decided to take those services from RX and get from the portal the work that you're doing, and we are counting that as part of all the services that you're gonna do during the year. So how do we get those numbers? Again, from the portal. And we kind of distribute also how many clients you need to see a month and a year. So, and in the EDP portal, these three services that we have actually are not, they're services, but they are also outcomes. So if we pull the report from the portal, we can get those numbers for you. Also, you as a in your agency, you can pull the report as well. Now, going back to the difference between RX and the portal is RX is only for the cases that you counsel, and you have a credit report, you have an action plan, you have a budget, you have pulled the credit report, and you have notes. And of course, you have documents to support your work. You have proof of income and the rest of the documents that you request from the client. If you have all that, go to RX. So the case is going to be somehow duplicated, RX and the portal, but that's okay. For those cases that you are involved with mediation and with the landlord, and somehow you're assisting the client to complete an application in the portal or to complete something in the portal, that we're getting it from the eviction diversion portal. So that's the big difference that we have for this year, and we're doing it to make sure that that work is being counted. And I'm sorry that I didn't do a better presentation, even though that I was assuming that we would work like perfectly showing that. But this is what I wanted to say today. And if you have any question, let me know. I'm going to stop sharing here and see if I can bring all the documents. But any questions so far?
No questions on the queue.
Okay, and I want to mention something about the diversions, DHCD diversion certification. We did a training for new counselors last year. I believe 10 or 12 participants were part of that training. And also we have policies, guidelines, and protocol how to certify housing counselors. If your agency has a new counselor that wants to be diversion certified, please contact your contract analyst and let us know, and we can share all the materials and all the information that you need to start the process of getting more DHCD diversion certified. And I'm pretty much done for right now. So now we go with the next subject, which is the last one.
Excuse me, friend, that was a question. Can you repeat which case we use the non-financial forms for aside from eviction diversion?
The
The
you're talking about
non-financial forms. Yeah,
the COVID-19.
I'm not sure. This came from
Hold on a
Nancy
second.
Cruz.
Let me just open that. That's only for agencies that are receiving CDBG-CV COVID funds. And it's only for DNB cases. It can be mortgage cases or rental eviction diversion, but only DNB cases. I hope this answered the question. Okay, so we keep moving to the last subject, eviction diversion new portal, and that's Michal and Leo.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Fran. Can everybody see my screen? Yep.
Yes.
Is the PowerPoint showing for folks?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So thanks for having us. My name is Michal Billick. I'm over at DHCD. I'm a program manager and I work on eviction prevention programs. I'm here with Leo Elliott from PLA. Leo, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, I'm the program coordinator for PLA's hotline for the eviction diversion program, and I'm here with Mihal today to talk about the new portal.
Great. So just to kind of briefly go over what we're going to cover today, this information session is less about programmatic features of the eviction diversion program and more about upcoming changes to the way that both information is shared with program participants and the way that we are now asking for information from program participants. We're happy to answer sort of like specific eviction diversion programmatic questions if we have time at the end or offline. And I know that we'll also talk about the Friday drop-in sessions that are available for case-specific questions as well. So specifically, we're going to talk about some upcoming improvements to the system that includes more streamlined application questions, the tenant intake form, the resubmission form, and the way outcomes are going to be shared with parties. We'll talk specifically about how to access the new portal. So this information is coming alongside a new online system. And we've sent some instructions ahead of time, but we're happy to answer questions about that. Leah will be taking us through a demo of the portal, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end. If we don't get to all questions, we have some information about how to reach us. So currently, when a landlord starts the eviction diversion program application, they're going to the eviction diversion website and they're filling out some information about themselves and their tenant and the issues involved. And if they're eligible for targeted financial assistance, which is the rental assistance component of the program, they're filling out sort of a second application later on down the line. With the changes, there is a new sort of unified system that integrates the targeted financial assistance questions directly into that upfront application. So hopefully that'll save time. This program is a lot happens in a 30-day period. So we're hoping that including those questions up front will help keep things on track for that 30-day program period. I'll be going through the tenant intake form. This is a new feature. Right now, the tenant proactively reaches out to the program to share information, to give feedback about the issues. But along with these changes, for every approved eviction diversion application, a tenant intake form will be sent to the tenant to ask some very basic demographic information and feedback about the issues involved. Also want to highlight that in the intake form, if the application is a targeted financial assistance eligible application, then the tenant affidavit will be included in that intake form. So again, trying to get the information to the right people in a timely manner as possible. And hopefully that'll help with that. We've edited all of our notifications, and this is simply to make sure that the information is communicated clearly. People know what to do, what the next steps are. The resubmission form I will show you over the next few slides. It's sort of a way to more seamlessly move throughout the program. If your circumstances change and the parties want to change pathways, they can do that. The status page, I'm not going to show specifically what it will look like. It basically looks like what the status page looks like now, but has a lot more content. So you can expect to be able to use that as a more hopefully useful tool and resource for you, the tenants that you're representing, when this goes live in the next couple weeks. And then lastly, I'll talk about the program outcomes, which are going to be communicated slightly differently when all these changes kick in. So I spoke about the tenant intake form. Just to go a little bit more in depth, again, this is a new application feature. It gets sent to the tenant. It is a form that gets sent to the tenant for every approved application. They're asked to confirm their address, demographic information, which, hopefully if it's useful for the reporting that you do on RX, you're welcome to pull that. And hopefully this will avoid asking the tenant for information twice and for some things. Currently, the program doesn't ask tenants for that demographic information, so hopefully that will be useful. They're asked to provide feedback on the issues they'd like to see resolved. So you'll have, in writing, a place to reference to see what the tenant's issues are. If they're eligible for TFA, then they're asked to sign the tenant affidavit right then and there in the tenant intake form. And they're asked to complete the form in a timely manner. As a housing counselor, you can assist them or complete the form on their behalf. This is what the tenant intake form looks like. So again, asking them a very basic form, asking them to confirm some information, demographic information, and if it's targeted financial assistance eligible, the ability to view the affidavit and sign here, right on the form. So a resubmission form is just the name of a new tool that we've included, and it allows parties to both resubmit EDP documents. So for a landlord, if the initial application is missing some things, they can use this to resubmit some initial application documents. Tenants or landlords can resubmit TFA documents that are required. And sort of the biggest takeaway from here is that a landlord can now or parties can now more seamlessly change pathways if circumstances change. So, for example, if a tenant owes more than $3,500 on the initial application, but the tenant has paid some of that down and is now under that $3,500 TFA eligible threshold, and the parties agree that they want to move into a TFA pathway, they can do that through a resubmission form. This is what the form looks like. It's basically grabbing those application questions that they would have answered on the initial application had they been eligible, putting that into a form and sending it to be able to provide the program that information to get them on that TFA pathway. This is the second page of the form, and I know I'm moving relatively quickly, but please save your questions for the end. I'm happy to answer any. I do want to leave enough room for Leo to actually show you what this looks like. So the outcome notifications is the last sort of upcoming, what's new, what's coming, what's changing piece that I'll go over. So currently outcomes can be generated at various times along that 30-day program period. We're sort of tightening that up to make sure that outcomes are not generated before the full 30-day program participation period. And this will hopefully avoid some confusion and make sure that people understand, particularly landlords, that they have an obligation to participate for that full 30-day program period. So notifications are being sent out, or sorry, specifically outcome notifications are being sent out right at that day 31. And they are more descriptive. The outcome, the notification edits that I talked about in that first slide, we've also done the same thing for the outcome notification, so it's really clear what the outcomes are for folks. We've also developed an outcome certificate. This is new. Landlords will receive this as a recognition of their good faith participation at the end of the program period. This is just a good reference point for the pathway changes that I talked about. So if parties are on a mediation pathway and they decide or they become eligible for targeted financial assistance, they have until day 45 after the application is approved to request that TFA pathway, and then another 15 days up until day 60 to submit all of their documents. and just some of the other sort of deadlines that we've put into place just to tighten things up. Mediation, I don't think there are many cases that go to more than 3 mediations, but that is going to be a new cutoff, 3 mediations total, and also mediations won't be able to be scheduled past 60 days. So again, really trying to keep the timelines, the program period to that 30 days, recognizing that it could take another 30 days to complete all of the processes. This is sort of the only substantive or programmatic change that I wanted to talk about. And this is specifically regarding targeted financial assistance eligibility if there has been a previous court filing. So this change went into effect in May of 2025. Before that time, any court filing between the same landlord and tenant for that unit disqualified the parties for a for targeted financial assistance. But beginning in May of 2025, we've sort of shortened that timeline to look back to the previous calendar year to see if there's been a court filing from the date of the eviction diversion program submit or application submission. And that's sort of to recognize that even though there may have been a court filing over a year ago, for at least 1 year, the landlord and the tenant has been able to work together, and that definitely honors the spirit of the eviction diversion program. So moving into sort of the back end, what we're going to spend this next part of the hour talking about. So when, as a housing counselor, previously you have logged in under your agency login and credentials, but moving forward with this new portal, you should have all received an individual email invitation from QuickBase that asks you to create your own set of credentials. You'll use this to access the new portal and find all of your case information. When you log in, you'll be able to poke around on this great new improved dashboard for housing counselors. It is a place where you can see all of your mediation applications, all applications assigned to your organization, and any pre-mediation meetings that you have scheduled. There are ways to sort and filter by date, case, status, outcome, and landlord. So just a sort of a more user-friendly dashboard that you'll have access to. Everybody should receive a weekly mediation list. They will continue to be sent but not manually. So they will be automated from the system. Instead of coming from Matthew Treat, they will come from notify@quickbase.com with this subject heading, new EDP portal mediations for the upcoming week. All of these, we're going to fully transition to this new portal in the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. And so for the folks on this call who are both in the old system or the current system and the new system, you'll continue to get, sorry about that, you'll continue to get 2 weekly emails. For housing counselors who are only working in the current portal and not this new portal, you'll continue to get 1 weekly email. And then when we transition, the weekly email will just look a little bit different. It will come from this different place, but have the same set of information. This is, I'll go over sort of something I just briefly touched on, and I know an email went out about this. So in order to work under this new portal, you need to create your own set of credentials, login, username, and password. You can do this by receiving the following the link in the email that you receive from notify@quickbase.com. It's important that you're signed out of any existing QuickBase account that you might use. And then you click on the email invitation link in the email invitation to create your username and password. Feel free to email us. We will share our emails if you don't have it already. If you have any issues or need troubleshooting support. Okay, I will pass it over to Leo at this point.
Thanks. So this next section of the presentation is going to be about how to find in an individual application the most important information you need as the counselor to help the tenant with the case. And in the new portal, a lot of the information that you're used to seeing and finding in these applications in the current system is the same as in the new system. It's just laid out in a different format. And then there's also some new information that counselors were not able to access in the old system, including and especially more detailed information about the status of targeted financial assistance, because the two systems are now integrated, that you'll now be able to access. So I'm going to go through pretty quickly, section by section, how to find information in each section of the application. But I'm hopeful that this will be, the slides from this presentation will be a helpful reference as well. And we'll, of course, be answering questions continuously as the transition's made over email and at the Friday drop-in sessions. So when you get a link notifying you that a counseling appointment's been scheduled over email, and you click the link to access the application, you will see first at the top of the application, this application details section. And this is the top level summary of the application. On the left-hand side, you have details regarding the pathway, status and outcome, the approval date, and the status, including the status of TFA and the status of mediation. The center panel is landlord information, including the contact information for the property owner and the details regarding the past due rent and the other breach of lease or other eviction issues that the landlord stated in their application. You'll also see new information here, which is details on the total amount of the TFA payment, if applicable. On the right-hand side, you'll see the information regarding the tenant. That includes the contact information for tenant number 1. So up here, you're only going to see the contact information for the first tenant that was listed by the landlord in the application. And you'll also see the address for the tenant and a link to access that tenant intake form with the demographic information that Michal explained earlier. One important note when you're looking at this is that the new system is going to collect landlord information and display landlord contact information in a slightly different way. So up here at the top of the application, you're going to see the contact information for the property owner, and it will show you in a couple slides where to find the contact information for the mediation representative for the landlord. So the first tab we're going to go over, when you scroll down, you'll see there's a series of tabs at the bottom of the application. Michal, if you want to go to the next slide. Oh, actually, we've got this one. Thanks. So this is just zooming in on the last screen we're in to show where to find the answers that you're used to seeing right next to the documents in the current system about what the landlord's eviction reasons were, the total arrears, any breach of lease issues that they've brought up, and any other issues the landlord states need to be resolved in mediation, as well as if the landlord opted in to TFA or not. So the first section down here is that we're going to look at is the application review section. The purpose of this section is primarily to be the workspace for Cora Good Shepherd's team when they're reviewing the application for approval. But there's a few pieces of information in this section that are important for housing counselors to be able to access, so I want to highlight those parts. First, we have the contact information on the next slide. And in contact information, you're going to find the contact for the landlord's property management representative, which is the person who is completing the initial application, and their mediation representative. A lot of the time, these are going to be the same person, but if, for example, a PM has one person completing the TFA application, and submitting application materials, and a different person who's attending mediation, you'll be able to see that distinction here. Then at the bottom, the other important part of this tab is the documents. In the document section, you're going to be able to find, the key thing is the ledger document. You have a kind of drop-down list of all the attachments that were uploaded with the application. That's very similar to what you're used to seeing, where you click View Attachment and you'll be able to download it. But there's also going to be, from time to time, ledgers that are laid out in a different way than you're used to seeing. For ease of access for smaller landlords, the new portal will have a way for a landlord to fill out a ledger online as part of applying to the program. And if the landlord chooses that option, you'll see a ledger displayed directly in the application, like what you're seeing on the left-hand side of this slide. Then the next tab is the secondary tenants tab. The contact information for tenants that's at the top of the application is just the first tenant that was listed by the landlord. So down here in secondary tenants, you'll be able to find the contact information for any additional tenants that were listed in the landlord's application. And this is also a slot that PLA's hotline and housing counselors can use to add additional contact information to the application for tenants, especially if the tenant wants to receive the automated notifications at a different phone number or email address. So then the next tab that we're going to look at is the mediation tab. This is the main section of the application where all of the details that are relevant to the housing counseling process will be found. At the top, you're going to find the top level information of the status and outcome for mediation, including the name of the landlord's representative and a summary of those breach of lease issues that we see at the top of the application as well. And then if you scroll down, you're going to find housing counselor details. This is the details about the housing counseling appointment. And when PLA is making the counseling appointment over the hotline, we're going to fill out the appointment time and information and assign a housing counselor on this page. One nice new feature that we'll have is the ability to designate whether an appointment is in person or virtual. As you might be aware, the current system has a notification that describes all counseling appointments as over the phone because the program started during the pandemic. And that sometimes causes confusion when appointments are in fact in person. So we'll be able to designate that when we're making the appointment, have it clearly displayed to the counselor and correctly described in the notification that goes out to the tenant. Now on the next slide, I'm just highlighting the parts of this section that housing counselors will fill out. So we've got a checkbox in the top right where you can just mark for reporting purposes that you were successfully able to meet with the tenant. There's a notes field where you can enter notes from the appointment. And one nice thing about this is if you, each time you enter a note in that field, it will automatically save as a date stamped note. So it'll appear like you're seeing on the screen, like March 7th, Matthew Treat left a note, met with tenant. And then finally, there's a box for record keeping for you to be able to upload any proposal that you sent to the landlord prior to mediation or during the negotiation process. And then as you scroll down in this section, you're going to see the mediation tab. This is a single list of all of the mediations that have been scheduled in the application in one place, which will hopefully make this information a little bit easier to access without having to go back to the weekly list you get over email every time. Although that will still, as Michal mentioned, be sent out weekly now in an automated way. And then finally, at the very bottom of this section, you have the mediation agreements section. This is where you'll find the information that Cora Good Shepherd records about the details of the mediation agreement once it's recorded. So you'll be able to find out what was the agreed past due rent and payment plan or move out agreement, the characteristics of the agreement, as well as in a TFA application, whether the parties agreed to receive TFA or to not have the TFA paid. So with that, we've covered the main information that in every application a housing counselor is going to need to find. And the remaining slides are some new information that you're able to access that may not come up all the time, but that could be helpful when it does come up. So first, we have this new feature that's called the communication log. In the communication log, you're going to be able to find two things. One is a record of every automatic notification sent by the program to landlords and tenants. So when you're talking with a tenant and they were talking to the landlord, and the landlord received some type of notification about TFA or about mediation that they didn't understand, and you're not quite sure what happened, you can go to this section and look at exactly what the notification says that was sent to the landlord or the tenant about the status of mediation or TFA. The other part of the communication log is for recording internal communications. So Cora Good Shepherd and PHDC especially will use what's called the communication type of record in this section to basically store notes that you might be used to seeing in different parts of the application about their communication with the landlord or the tenant, about the application status, or updates on what's happening. So in the current system, these types of notes taken by Cora or PHDC or the hotline in some cases are kind of spread across a few different fields in the application, but this will give you the opportunity to see that type of note sort of in one place in an organized list. Finally, I want to show you how to access and also how to help tenants find and complete the tenant intake form. So for most applications that are in the mediation pathway, the tenant intake form is just about collecting demographic information from the tenants. And because the program is going to be sending out this form to every tenant in an automated notification at least once, maybe twice before your counseling appointment, a lot of the time when you meet with a tenant, they'll have already completed this information. If the tenant's already completed the information, it's going to look like the bottom screenshot. Oh, can we go back? Where it has a blue button to the tenant intake form. You'll click that and it'll bring you to the completed tenant intake form in the system, and you'll be able to access the information. If the tenant has not yet completed the form, you'll have an orange text that says no tenant intake form. And on the next slide, you'll have access to a button to add a tenant intake form. And this will bring you directly to the form that the tenant has to complete, so you can help them to complete it, or you can give them the link from there. As I said, tenants are getting this notification directly from the program with the instructions to complete the form, but hopefully this is helpful if you find that tenants are having a hard time with it, to give them a hand in filling it out. One small note that's important is, just so you're aware, in any application that includes TFA, the tenant intake form will not just be demographic, but will also have demographic information, but will also have a second page where the tenant completes the tenant affidavit for TFA. So if you have an application where it's TFA and mediation, tenants will need to complete the tenant intake form in order to qualify for TFA. So just covering who to contact for issues. The last time we did this presentation, we had mediators on the call as well, but housing counselors, for now, if you have questions as we're transitioning, contact your agency point of contact at CLS, but you can also reach out to me or Mihal, and bring your questions to the weekly drop-in hours. I think we'll be using that space to try to answer everybody's questions in an efficient way as we transition over. Thank you.
Now, I do have a few questions. One is, when the landlord starts an application or starts the process of being part of the portal, that case goes to, CLS will see and assign the housing counselor. So I wanted to know in what moment of all this case gets assigned to a housing counselor. And once it's assigned, the housing council will take over the portal, whatever it needs to be done or complete or help?
That's a great question, Fran. So um, the first thing that happens is the landlord submits the application, and then the application is reviewed by Cora Good Shepherd to make sure that the landlord has provided the basic information and documents that are required by the program. Once it's approved, that's when the 30-day participation period starts, and the tenant, that very moment it's approved, is going to get a notification if the application's assigned to the mediation pathway to call PLA's hotline. PLA also conducts outreach to tenants who are on the mediation pathway, but either we call the tenant and connect with them, or they call our hotline and connect. And while we're over the phone, we schedule a counseling appointment through the Google Calendar system and also through QuickBase, and assign a housing counselor. So the housing counselor is not assigned until the tenant speaks with PLA, either by calling us or by us reaching out to them. And then Cora Good Shepherd schedules the mediation as soon as there's a counseling appointment in the system within the housing counselor's calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Leo or Miho, do you want to address the question that's in the chat? I mean, I'm sorry, not in the chat, in the Q&A. I can read it or you can just go to it.
Yeah, Nancy. Mihal, correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody has access to the notes in the system except the same people as the same organizations as the current system. So CLS, PLA, the city, PHDC, and Cora Good Shepherd, as well as the other housing counselors.
Yeah, the participants don't have access to the portal. Some notes that Cora Good Shepherd puts into the application get sort of translated onto a notification, but that's like specifically if they're trying to give guidance to the landlord to fix, a document or to correct a denied application. But unless you're a program partner, then you would not be able to see the back end of the portal.
Well, the other question that I forgot to say, I know that I had another question. The agreement. So when somebody reaches an agreement, good or bad, so let's start with a good one, a payment plan. Is the portal is going to show that agreement, right? But how about if it gets changed? So for some reason, after they agree to pay to do this payment plan, something happened and just, I don't know, by a miracle, they agreed to redo the payment plan. So somebody is gonna go to the portal and make the changes.
So if the parties are directly changing their agreement, so like once an agreement is made, then the parties don't have an obligation to, attend another follow-up mediation or anything like that. They've come to an agreement. Then on their own, they make changes to the terms of the agreement. It's really up to the parties as to whether or not they come back to the program to update the, Cora Good Shepherd staff on changes to that agreement. If participants update program staff, then that can be recorded and changed. And Nancy, I see that you're here. Hi, feel free to chime in if there's anything different you wanted to share. But after an agreement is made, the program isn't following up or doing that proactive outreach with the parties anymore. If they make changes, then they can share that with the program, but they're not obligated to.
Okay. And if there is no an agreement, but still the landlord agreed not to go after the money, but they say, well, forget it. So I'm not even doing a judgment against you for the amount. So I guess that's considered an agreement too. If something like that happened, that could be also part of the portal. The person agreed to, stop the eviction and kind of forgive the debt.
Yeah, I don't think the mediators kind of restrict what the terms that the parties choose to talk about, and the issues that the parties choose to talk about. So it's definitely possible for the parties to talk about debt forgiveness and the landlord to agree to forgive a certain amount of or all of the amount that the tenant owes, and agree not to go to court, etc. So if that's agreed to, yep, as Nancy confirms, that would just be put into the agreement as part, even if it's something they're both saying, they're agreeing not to do, that can be put as terms in a mediation agreement. I know there's a question about proof of payments. Those are not uploaded into the portal.
Before Nancy, feel free to step in and give your kind of take on this, but extending the discussion of sort of the mediation outcome to Fran's question. One thing that will be more detailed in the new portal is the recorded information about what type of agreement was made. The actual agreements made in mediation are maintained as confidential documents between the parties by Cora Good Shepherd, but the new portal will have more detailed coding by Cora about whether it was a payment plan or an agreement involving TFA or an agreement to move out of the property and avoid an eviction that way.
Nancy, you should be able to chime in now if you
Hi,
like.
thank you. I am here to answer additional questions alongside Leo and Mihal. Also, a couple of our Quora team, Sue and Susan, are here. I think you got it just right, so I'm not going to belabor unless there's an added point to be made. But all that you said so far, we're texting behind the scenes and we're agreeing.
Glad to hear that. I didn't realize you couldn't unmute. Sorry, Nancy.
It's very hard for me. I try to behave.
And the mediations schedules are the same. We haven't, nothing have changed. Okay.
With me, if I may put in a plug, because it's very hard to say no, very hard to say no, period. As I think has been introduced already, the city's holding us rightly to that tight 30-day turnaround. We're not going to have the same latitude that we've enjoyed in the past to extend the life of an application past 30 days with good faith participation. So if we reach out to you as we kind of get through the launch and work with this new database that we've got, if you find us reaching out initially to our housing counselors more often to beg for an additional date to keep us within day 30, please bear with us. That will be the reason. We're not trying to be ornery or disrespect your time and your very tight calendars. It's only that nice certificates that's going to get generated after day 30 is going to go out unless I would say something pretty egregious happens, like a lack of good faith participation from a landlord. So we'll feel our way for the first couple months. I think it's going to work great, but we're just going to be that much more accountable to the 30-day closure.
Thanks.
And just chiming in along with that, I think that most people who work on the diversion program have worked with us on something like this before. But if at any time your mediation calendar is overbooked and you need to reach out to PLA to slow down or pause new referrals for a week or two to give yourself that space to schedule extra mediations like Nancy was talking about, that's always something we can figure out. So just feel free to reach out to me and Nancy about that. I'll put my email in the chat.
Also, I guess that's a good time to remind counselors to go over 2026 schedule on Google Calendars. It's very important to reflect the days that you are not in the office or the office is closed, trainings, there's always trainings, and so make sure that your Google calendars reflect all these days that you are not available. And of course, there are some days that are impossible to predict. We understand that part, but go over your calendars.
Okay.
And did you get the answer about the training, the health training? Because I didn't get anything. Like, did you say that there are some housing counselors going to this health training at the end of
Oh yeah.
January?
I recall. I got a note from a couple of counselors that there is a HUD conference webinar over 3 days at the end of this month. I've only heard from a couple people who are attending this, but please reach out to me and Cora Good Shepherd if you're planning to attend, and it will cause mediations that would normally be scheduled during those days in the diversion program to need to be rescheduled to a different day.
Yeah, that's why it's also, yes, good to remind counselors to check their schedules and the calendars.
I'm just looking at a couple of the questions that we got through the chat rather than the Q&A section. So Maria, I think that your question was in reference to the tenant intake form. We covered this in the slides, but yes, counselors will be able to see if the tenant intake form is completed. If not, they'll be able to access the tenant intake form to help tenants complete it. And if it was completed, they'll be able to access the information from that tenant form for each application in the system. And then Diane, yes, this is the one major change with the new system, and it has to do with some of the changes to have better individual notifications to counselors. Each counselor should have a login for the new portal under their individual work email. So we sent out invites to every counselor that has done an EDP case in the last year to make that new login. But Diane, now that I think about it, I think that your email might be the login, the agency login. So if you have any trouble with updating that for the new system, or you can't access the new system, just shoot me an email and we'll figure it out. Maria, I'm putting my email in the chat now.
Okay, so we're getting pretty much close to the end. At this point is, if anybody has a question about the last 3 hours, pretty much just this is the time before we go. It can be about the portal, the training. I believe the only one PHFA left. Yeah. So nothing about PHFA. But the rest were here for the next maybe 2-3 minutes. And are you done with your part, the portal, Elio and Michal?
We're done.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
thank you. And
good.
thank everybody. I can't see the housing counselors, but thank you all for everything that you do in the diversion program. Hopefully the new portal will make your lives a little bit easier, your ability to manage and support tenants going through the program a little bit more manageable. And thank you.
No, yes. And also remember is that, sometimes the council were saying this, we know we do this work, but this doesn't get count. It does. And we see it. So, yes, thank you so much for everything. So the service, pretty much we're ending the service today. And we're gonna have 2 more this year. And we'll save the date at least a month before the next in-service. And thank you so much for participating and for all the information. And we learned a lot. And hopefully we're making these programs more robust for the benefit of everybody, like tenants, homeowners, the city, us. So, yeah. And I don't know if my coworkers wants to say anything?
No, just
Please,
thank you,
Rashida,
Fran.
Cherie.
You've been a
Hope
great.
everything's good. Yep. Thank you all. This was great. And thanks,
Thank
Fran.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great job, Fran.
Yes.
And
Bye-bye.
Liz. And
And Liz, yeah.
Rashida. And
No, but we all
Cherie.
did.
Everybody.
We,
And
hey,
Bob. And Leo. And Bob. And
Yes.
James.
everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And
Thanks.
Michelle.
Thank you.